Hello, I'm Susan Woods, the owner of Susan Woods Nonprofit Consulting Services. Thank you for selecting this presentation. The name of this presentation is Why Churches Must Earn Nonprofit Status. Introduction. We're going to be talking about the reasons churches must earn nonprofit status throughout this presentation. Churches have served as places of comfort and healing for centuries. Whenever there is a tragedy, people go to church to grieve. Remember 9/11? If an important social issue needs to be addressed, the meetings are normally held at churches. Voting registration seminars, for example. Since the Clinton administration, churches have been tasked with providing community services at a very high level. No longer are churches strictly places to worship. Churches have become pillars of the community that provide services for people in the community. Churches provide a broad range of free community services, including food pantries, free clothing, free lunches, youth programs, health seminars, legal aid seminars, and emergency care for people in the community. Your church may provide even more services. To provide free community services, churches need money, in addition to the tithes and offering. Because the need for community services is in high demand, churches simply cannot afford to provide those services through the tithes and offering. Additional money is needed. Historically, church members have been asked to contribute toward the community services expenses. Unfortunately, the ability to do so is diminishing. And the reason for that is, in addition to paying tithes and offering, and then their own personal bills, their own personal expenses, people simply cannot afford to give to community services as much as is required or needed. Churches have started requesting money to provide community services from external sources, which includes grant funders. So, since the membership may not be able to provide the additional money that's required to offer community services, church officials have started to go outside of the church to seek money to provide community services for the community. And one source of external financial resources is grant funders. That's one source, and that's foundations, corporations, and government entities that provide funding for community services through grants. But here's the situation. There's a unique situation when you talk about churches providing community services and the money that's required to do so, and how the money comes about and how you are able to receive the money. It's a little, I call it a tangled web that exists when you talk about trying to get money externally for a church to provide community services. So let's walk through the situation together. There's a situation called honorary versus earned. Honorary versus earned. And when we talk about those two terms, we're talking about honorary 501c3 status versus earned 501c3 status. As we all know, the Internal Revenue Service allows churches to claim an honorary 501c3 nonprofit status as long as they meet the criteria. And the IRS has certain criteria churches must meet in order to receive that honorary 501c3 designation. Now, 501c3 gives the churches the ability to accept tax-free tithes and offering from the membership. So let's talk about this one step at a time. Grant funders do not recognize the honorary 501c3 status. So when you think about corporations, when you think about foundations, when you think about government entities that provide grant funding, remember they don't recognize an honorary 501c3 status. They know that churches have been given the honorary status by the Internal Revenue Service, but they simply don't recognize it when they are considering grant funding disbursements. Grant funders only provide money for the earned 501c3 status. That means they appreciate the services that churches provide for the community, but they do not provide grant funding for churches that do not have the earned 501c3 status. And that's for the most part. Now, you may see some sprinklings of exceptions to that throughout the United States, but for the most part, this is the situation. An earned 501c3 status is when a church or an individual or a group goes through the official application process that the IRS provides with the Form 1023 application for recognition of exemption. That's the name of the application that one would have to complete in order to be reviewed for approval of an earned 501c3 status. So in other words, in order to earn a 501c3 status, you have to go through the official Internal Revenue Services application process. Now, after you have gone through the process of applying for 501c3 status and your application has been approved, then you will receive a determination letter in the mail. And that determination letter proves the earned 501c3 status. That is what you present to the grant funders as evidence that you have gone through the process of earning the 501c3 status. Let's talk a little bit more about the determination letter. The IRS provides a determination letter to organizations that earn the 501c3 status through the formal application approval process. So when you submit your Form 1023 application and recognition of exemption, along with the 7 attachments that are included in that application, it goes through a review process by an Internal Revenue Service representative that will be assigned to review your application. Now, this process can take 120 days. That's what the IRS requests. However, depending on how well the application is put together to be submitted, it could take longer than that. So, and it also depends on the complexity of the application. In other words, the complexity of the community services that you want to provide. So there are several factors that determine how long it takes for your application to be processed and approved by the Internal Revenue Service. If the representative that's reading your application needs additional information, they will contact you via regular mail. They will not call you. Now, you can call them, but they will not call you. But at the end of the whole process, your goal is to receive a determination letter that proves that your organization or your church has received and earned 501c3 status. So that's the difference between honorary and earned. Again, the honorary 501c3 designation is when a church meets certain criteria and the IRS gives them the 501c3 status in order to receive tithes and offerings tax deductible or tax free, excuse me. On the other hand, the earned 501c3 status comes about when a person or an organization or a church completes the application process and is approved for 501c3 status. The earned designation is a designation that attracts grant funding, not only grant funding, but other investments as well. Let's look at a scenario to bring this all together. Mount Glory Baptist Church, which is a fictional church, was established in 1925 and is well respected in the community. The current membership is about 800 people who represent several generations of loyalty to this church. Unfortunately, the local community was devastated when several factories closed. Most people started working at the mill, as they called the factories, after high school. Therefore, when their jobs ended, they did not have the skills required to qualify for new jobs. Church officials at Mount Glory Baptist Church knew that the community expected them to provide help. So they met and discussed ways to help the people in the community, because most of the people impacted were church members. The board of directors of the church decided to implement job skills training classes to provide basic computer skills, job search skills, interviewing skills, and so forth. After the job skills training plan was completed, a meeting was scheduled with the local foundation to discuss a $50,000 grant funding request. Now, although the foundation was impressed with the job skills training plan that the Mount Glory Baptist Church officials presented, and they agreed that the program was desperately needed, they declined to approve the grant funding request. The pastor and board members were shocked that the foundation declined their request for grant funding. After all, the church has been a pillar of the community since 1925. The grants manager met with them again at the foundation and explained that there were 3 reasons the grant request was declined. The first reason, the lack of an earned 501c3 status. Now, when the grants manager provided that first reason, the pastor and board members responded by saying, well, we've gotten help from the foundation in the past. Why are we being denied now? And the grants manager said, because we've had situations in the past where churches have received funding based on the honorary 501c3 designation that the IRS provides and did not honor their commitment to providing the services that they promised. And we did not have any type of defense in terms of following up, because there was no formal documentation that we required from the church that would hold them liable for not honoring their commitment. So therefore, we require that churches or any organization that requests funding from us to go through the application process that provides the documentation that we need in case a commitment is broken we have documentation that allows us to hold them liable. Documentation that we can point to say this is what you promised that you would do with the money. That's the first reason. The second reason is the appearance of, this is a difficult word for me to pronounce, pro proselytizing. Excuse me. Proselytizing. And that means the foundation did not want to look like their investment was causing people to feel that they were being encouraged to attend the Mount Glory Baptist Church. In other words, they didn't want their investment to appear as if they were recruiting people to attend this church. They didn't want to give the impression that by our investment, we're saying that this is a great church for you to attend. They want to remain neutral in that. So that's another reason why the grant funding was declined. And then finally, the perceived demonstration of flamboyance. Now, the grants manager really emphasized the fact that they were not accusing the church members or the pastors or the board members of demonstrating flamboyance in terms of having extraordinary material possessions that look a little extraordinary in the community. But the grants manager did mention the reputation that some churches, or church officials have for using money inappropriately to buy personal material things that do not present a good image. So that's another reason why the grant funding was declined. The grants manager did add that they really appreciate the services that the Mount Glory Baptist Church has provided over the years, and they do hope that they will be able to provide the services that they would like to provide. However, they would not be able to help them financially to do that until changes have been made, specifically until the three reasons the grant request was declined have been addressed. So let's just talk about earned nonprofit status, the importance of it. I hope that the information that I just shared gives you a better idea about the importance of earning a nonprofit status. Okay, the independent affiliate. Churches have honorary 501c3 statuses to accept tax-deductible tithes and offerings. Unfortunately, the money raised through tithes and offerings is not sufficient to cover community service expenses. To provide community services effectively, churches should add an independent affiliate that has an earned 501c3 status and determination letter to receive grant funding. Now, this gets around the issue of a church having an honorary designation and not having an earned 501c3 designation, and the difficulties that presents when seeking grant funding. An independent affiliate should really be considered because it offers several benefits for a church. For example, churches add independent affiliates with earned 501c3 statuses to secure money to provide community services. Independent affiliates provide the following benefits: IRS approval. That means they've gone through the application process and they have the earned 501c3 status through the IRS approval process. Credibility. When you show your determination letter to potential grant funders, that shows that you are credible. You've gone through the process. Transparency. Everything is laid out in your documentation, in your application. you have several documents that show exactly what you are planning to do in writing, which leads to the next one, accountability. If throughout the process that you're using to provide services and you need to prove that you are doing what you promised, here it is. You have the documentation to provide that accountability. Broad scope. When you have an independent affiliate, you can provide a broad range of community services because you will have the grant funding necessary to do so. Independence. The independent affiliate, is not directly under the umbrella of the church. In other words, the board of directors that govern the church will not govern the independent affiliate. Now, you can have, of course, you want people from the church to be on the board of directors of the independent affiliate. However, you want people from the community that you're serving to also be a part of that board. So the independent affiliate is separated from the church in that regard. Accounting is separated, financial records are separated, grant funding resources are separated. Everything is separated because you want that independence to be able to offer those services. And then formal documents, I mentioned that already. You have formal documentation that you can actually show someone of what you are doing, to prove what you are doing through the independent affiliate. So how would an independent affiliate earn nonprofit status? In order to add independent affiliates with earned 501(c) statuses, churches must complete and submit the IRS Form 1023 application for recognition of exemption to the IRS for approval. Now, I say churches must complete it, but church officials, people from the church that have the idea that they want to implement through an independent affiliate, that's who I'm referencing when I'm saying the churches. The IRS Form 1023 application for recognition of exemption includes several pages of questions and the following attachments: the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, the narrative of activities, the conflict of interest policy, fundraising activities, collaboration agreement, and financial statement. And once again, this goes back to when the pastor and board members met with the grants manager. And the grants manager explained that one of the reasons their grant request was declined was because they didn't have an earned status. The earned status would have provided them with the ability to present all of these documents to the grants manager, because you have to submit these documents as a part of the application process. And of course, you keep a copy for your own records. So they could have had these documents to present, and this would have provided the coverage, if you will, that the grants manager wanted to see, that would have prevented them from feeling liable if the church did not meet the expectations that they set for program services. So now we're going to talk about my company. I guess it's time for a plug for my company, Susan Woods Nonprofit Consulting Services. I'm asking you to allow us to complete the 501(c)(3) application packet for your independent nonprofit affiliate. We've already talked about all of the benefits of having an independent nonprofit affiliate associated with your church, so that you can provide the community services that are in great need in your community. And I can help you with that. Susan Woods Nonprofit Consulting Services completes the IRS Form 1023 application for recognition of exemption for independent nonprofit affiliates of churches and for individuals who desire to start a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. My company has a 100% application approval rating from the Internal Revenue Service. So every client that I've helped with this process, with this application process throughout the years, have received their 501c3 determination letter. I started a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2003 called Comprehensive Community-Based Solutions Incorporated. So here we go. I started my own nonprofit organization, so I know very well the application process. I have fine-tuned it over the years, and I have also managed a nonprofit organization that included two programs underneath its umbrella. The first program was called Panorama Computer Learning Incorporated, and that program provided basic level computer classes in the community. And the second program was called the Emerging Leaders Mentorship Program for Black Male Youth, and it provided mentorship services for black male youth in 5 different counties. So I know what it takes not only to get an application approved, but also to manage a nonprofit organization over the years. I use a 4-step process to completing an application packet for my clients. And here it is. The 4-step application process that I use include the following: a free 1-hour consultation, contract review and agreement meeting, application and attachments completed, application packet review. So the first thing that I do when someone contacts me to inquire about my services and helping them to complete the application packet, I schedule a 1-hour consultation. And during that 1-hour consultation, I listen to the client, explain their vision for the services they want to provide in the community. So if a church contacts me, or church officials contact me and say, I would like for our church to add an independent affiliate to offer community services, I ask them, okay, what type of community services are you interested in offering? And then they share that information, and I ask them why. And I ask them, how do they know it's needed? We go through a series of questions, and the reason that I do that is because I do not accept anyone's money when I don't believe the IRS will approve their application. Sometimes in this free 1-hour consultation, we fine tune or we tweak the services they want to provide, because sometimes people have a broad range of services they want to start off providing immediately, and that's not feasible when you're just starting. So we have that kind of conversation throughout the consultation. When we get through with the consultation, if we both agree that we want to move to the next step, then I schedule a meeting with them to review the contract that I provide. I provide a contract that stipulates everything that I do during the application completion process for my clients. And I have them review that contract and ask any questions that they need to ask. I answer the questions, and then we agree that the contract is sufficient for them to feel comfortable with me providing my services. Once the contract is signed and the initial security deposit is paid, then I complete the application and the attachments that are required. So again, the application includes about 16 pages that I complete, and it may be more pages than that depending on the complexity of the services provided, and the 7 attachments that I just discussed or just mentioned in a prior slide. Those 7 attachments are also completed for the client, and completing those attachments require a great deal of research, a great deal of gathering of information, a great deal of revisions to make sure that they reflect everything that the client wants to reflect in the application. And then finally, we meet again when the application packet is completed from start to finish. I complete everything in the application packet from start to finish. So then I meet with the client again and we review it, the printed copy, to make sure that everything is the way that it should be. I also focus on appearance of the application because I'm convinced that when a representative receives an application packet, they prefer to have an application packet that looks neat and in order. And I spend a lot of time making sure that the fonts are adequate in the application, the line spacing, the margins, when bold, underlining, and all types of formatting features. I make sure that they are used appropriately within the application and that all of the pages are numbered to make sure that the representative has an easy time of reviewing the application for my clients. Now, the investment fees. How much does it cost to add an independent affiliate with an earned 501c3 status? Churches must pay the following fees. There is a state incorporation fee that's required, and I put varies by state because it does. The fee varies by state. But this fee is paid to file your articles of incorporation, because in order for your 501c3 application to be approved, the articles have to be approved by the state first, and then a copy of the approved articles of incorporation have to be placed within the application packet for the federal approval. The federal approval, of course, is a 501c3 approval because you're being approved on the federal level. So that fee varies by state. Then you have the charitable license fee. Again, that varies by state because every state requires that a nonprofit organization apply for a charitable license, meaning they have to have a license to solicit funding in the state in which they are registered. So you can't just go around asking for money. You have to have a license to ask for money, and so that fee varies by state. Now the Form 1023 application fee is $850, and that fee is included in the application packet. So whenever you mail your application packet to the Internal Revenue Service, you have to include a check for $850. Now, there is a fee of $400 that you can pay for the application to be processed. But in order to qualify to pay $400, you have to indicate to the Internal Revenue Service that you do not project that your organization will have $10,000 in the bank throughout the first 4 consecutive years in order to offer services. Now think about that. You're saying that your organization will not have $10,000 to work with over each of the subsequent 4 years in which you have completed your application, or after you have completed your application. To me, that does not sound feasible, because if you're saying you don't have $10,000 to operate, then you don't have $10,000 to cover your expenses, right? And most organizations need at least $10,000 to pay their employees, much less to offer the services. So it's best to just go ahead and be free with telling the IRS exactly how much you're going to need to operate your program, and that's what I would include in your financial statement. The financial statement, remember, is one of the attachments that's included in the packet. And I have to indicate in that financial statement how much money your organization is projected to need to operate. And I'm going to tell you, in my 12 years of providing the service, I've never completed a financial statement that said an organization will not need $10,000. So it's best to just go ahead and pay the $850 application fee. And then finally, my fee is $1,000 to complete the application packet from beginning to end. So in order to meet with me and receive a packet that's ready to be mailed, unless you have some changes that you need at our final meeting, I'm coming to the final meeting with the application packet ready to be mailed to the Internal Revenue Service. If you want that type of service, then the fee is $1,000. There's a $500 security deposit for me to get started. And then when we meet at the final meeting, if you approve of the final packet, then the $500 remaining fee will be due at that time. And after you've paid the $500 remaining fee, I will give you your application packet for you to mail to the IRS. I will also bring you a copy of the packet for your own personal records. So you're looking at a total investment of about $2,000 in order to earn your 501c3 nonprofit status. So we're down to the final thoughts. This presentation was created for church officials who provide community services and need grant money. Over the years, I've received so many questions from church officials who feel confused about why grant funders are reluctant to provide grant money for the church to provide community services. They simply can't understand why they're not receiving the financial support that they need to help the community. I hope that this presentation has helped you to understand why some grant funders are reluctant and some simply refuse to support churches. I hope that I've made it clear in this presentation that an independent affiliate would be the best choice for churches, in my opinion, and not only just in my opinion, but has been proven to be the best approach to use when reaching out to grant funders for money to provide the community services that you desire. The first thing we should do is, as church officials, develop a community services development team. That's where you start. You get a small group of hardworking people who are passionate about the community and are willing to develop a team. Create a robust community services plan. That means just think about, what does your community need? What does your community need? The people around your church, what do they need? What type of services do they need? And write those down. Schedule a free 1-hour consultation with me to talk about what you would like to do. Invest in the 501c3 application completion services that I just outlined. The fees are normally around $2,000, which is not much, in my opinion, to get an application completed from start to finish and be able to submit it to the Internal Revenue Service with confidence that it will probably be approved. Receive an earned 501c3 determination letter. That's your golden ticket, so to speak. That's what's going to help you get the grant funding you need. That's your credibility statement. And then after you receive that letter, create a grants writing team, a group of people with the responsibility of writing grants for the community services that you want to provide. Submit the grant proposals with a copy of the determination letter within it, and acquire the grant money you need to offer community services. These are the steps that I suggest when you are ready to offer community services. In closing, I would like to say, please call me. Call me at 704-968-2769 to schedule a free 1-hour consultation to discuss the benefits of adding an independent 501c3 nonprofit affiliate to your church to offer community services. You can also visit www.earnnonprofitstatus.com to learn more about the services that I provide. I have a website as well called SusanWoodsNonprofitConsultingServices.com, and I also have a Facebook page with the same name. Please feel free to contact me so that we can talk. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good day.